Welcome to Speed and Color, a podcast and YouTube channel about custom motorcycle culture. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to get all the latest content. You can also follow Speed and Color on Instagram. We hope you enjoy the show.
Hi there, how you doing? Hey, welcome to Season 2 of Speed and Color. Can you believe it? 26 episodes in the bag, and we're about to start another season and go for another 26 episodes. So this first episode, boy, I gotta be honest with you. This one was tough. This one, I've had it in the can for a while. This one really kicked my arse. I think the problem or the challenge with this one is that it's meaningful for me on so many different levels, so many different dimensions. There's the concept or the idea of getting older and remembering things from your youth, and I think we've all done that where a song comes on the radio or on Sirius XM or whatever, and all of a sudden you think, oh man, I haven't heard that song in 20 years, and it meant something to you. It was something you listened to, or you see somebody somewhere that you went to high school with, and you stop and you have a chat, and it's really good, and it's great to see the person, and you think, wow, that's 30 years ago, or whatever it is for you. But there are those things that we come across, and I don't want to give away too much of what we talk about in the episode here, but certainly the Wall of Death was very much like that for me, where it was something that hadn't been on my radar for years. I hadn't thought about it, and all of a sudden there it was in front of me, and it brought back all these memories from being a teenager. Oh, excuse me. That is a cold that I got on the weekend shoveling snow. Yeah, anyway, that's another story. We're into that part of the year. But anyway, seeing the Wall of Death and all those memories from being a teenager, and wow, it meant a lot. And then to find out that there's a real Canadian tie in the current Wall of Death and what the Ives brothers are doing. And, these young men, young families, and what they're doing in a time when it seems we have a lot of people who don't have a lot of initiative maybe, or don't understand what they can do in life, and maybe aren't motivated for whatever reason. We definitely have some challenges in our society right now, and with young people. And here's young families that are going out and making it happen, and they're doing it. They don't know they can't. They're out there doing it, and I'm inspired by the drive and the initiative there. So lots of things came together on this, and I guess the conclusion or the result of all of this valuable stuff was that I just didn't feel that I was going to do this justice, and I still don't. I would love to do a bigger, better, more detailed, more elaborate show. It just isn't in the cards right now. I don't have the resources, and I certainly don't have the time, and it's tough to catch up with these guys. So for all those reasons, I can't really do this on the grand scale I'd like to, but I still want to capture what I can. And you know what? Maybe there'll be more opportunity. Maybe I'll be able to do more. But for now, what I'm going to present to you is an interview that I was able to do with the Ives brothers. Tough to interview these guys, and tough to do a lot of stuff with these guys because they are busy. We went down to Born Free, saw them there, arranged for the interview. It was kind of, even though we had done some pre-planning, it wound up being kind of ad hoc, just, as time permitted. And these guys were trying to get the wall up, trying to get their whole outfit together, which is a big undertaking, getting that whole thing set up and tuned in and, all the things that need to be done. It's a pile of work, and I hated taking much of their time away from them because I know how much they had to do. So there's that, and then when the show is on, that's the wrong time to be trying to get their attention. And they always have media and different people, inside the wall when they're running, when they're doing a show. So there's a lot going on there, and honestly, I'm not going to include a lot of riding on the wall footage in this episode, because I did some and I looked at it, and there is so much good stuff on the Ives Brothers website and social media and other places. What I was able to shoot just didn't do it justice. It wasn't really reflective of the standard that these guys set. So I just looked at it and I thought, you know what, I can bring my story, I can bring the interview. There's another section that I hope is a little bit different, where I just talk about some of what this means to me outside of the wall, with it in the background, and just a little bit different perspective, I guess, and hopefully has some meaning there. So, I hope you'll watch the interview and that section. I hope you'll watch the whole episode, because I think there is really a good story here, and I hope that comes through. I've been absolutely privileged to get to know these guys and to catch up with them, and it is my plan to go to the Motorcycle Super Show in Toronto in January, and hopefully meet up with them again. And I hope to meet the man who built the original wall for the Ottawa show. Apparently he shows up every year at the Super Show, is still out there doing his thing, coming by, and I'm hoping that I can coordinate to meet him while I'm in Toronto. That'll be kind of the next step in this whole fact-finding mission, or whatever the heck it is I'm on, but we'll see what happens there. So I did think the one thing I should do in this is, for anybody who doesn't know what the Wall of Death is or hasn't seen it in a while, I remembered that I have people listening to a podcast who aren't going to know what I'm standing in front of or any of that. I thought I should give you a description of what we're talking about here. So the Wall of Death is basically, it's a wooden structure. This thing is almost completely wood, other than the hardware that holds it together. And I believe the viewing platform that goes around the top of the wall that people stand on, I believe it might be steel, or there's a lot of steel frame to it. Of course, the stairs coming up the front to get you up to the viewing area, that's all steel. So there are some steel components, but largely it's wood, and most of this thing is built in panels of one fashion or another. Again, the whole idea is to be able to assemble this thing for a 2-day, 3-day show, and then take it apart onto the truck and get down the highway with it. It's very much a traveling road show. I hope I don't offend anybody, but it's a circus. It's a traveling show for sure. So it is a wooden structure, and when they say the wall of death, so it is a cylinder, and I believe it's 20 feet tall and 30 feet in diameter. And the motorcycles go around on the inside of this cylinder on the wall. And just like you take an ice cube in a glass and swirl it around, and the ice cube will run on the inside of the glass and come up from the bottom, if you get it to do that, or, a ball bearing in a plastic cup, the same thing. So that's and forgive me, I know there's going to be a ton of criticism about my science, but I'm just trying to give it to you in simple terms that I understand. And as I say, the physics behind that ball bearing rolling around in that glass is pretty much the same as the motorcycle going around on this wall with speed. And it doesn't take a ton of speed, as you'll find out. But with a certain amount of speed, the motorcycle is on the wall. It has, for my purposes, it has now created its own gravity. So gravity for the rider and the motorcycle is the direction of the wall. And the motorcycle is sideways on this wall. Interesting thing about that is the challenge for the rider in this is your eyes tell you that down is the floor. Your balance sensors, gravity sensors, whatever that is, that are in the ear area, they're in the ear canals or whatever, they're telling you that down is the wall. So now your brain has to put together that this is not down, this is down, which I find so cool that that our brain puts that together and can understand that. And watching the guys ride, it's amazing. I've always thought it was very, very cool. I'll tell you, because I don't think this comes up in the interview anywhere. But back in Ottawa, when I was a kid, the trick that I always thought was super cool, and maybe I talk about this in the section at the end. It's okay, I'm going to talk about it twice. The trick that I thought was super cool was when the rider would sit side saddle with no hands, but side saddle facing down to the floor. And just, even when I think about it now, when I picture that, I think, oh my goodness, just how does that work? But the whole physics thing, the gravity, it's all very cool the way it works. So the wooden wall, you'll see that the wood isn't always in perfect shape, but it works. It goes together in panels. There's panels for the ramp at the bottom. There's panels for the floor. It's quite the puzzle to put together. But it forms this wall. It's braced on the outside. You'll see how the braces, hold the panels up, and they're all bolted together. And there's a safety tension wire around the top that helps to keep it all together. With everybody standing around the top. So I think the top of the wall on me would catch me about the waist level. So I don't know what that is. There's maybe 3 feet of wall that you stand up against, basically. But it's very cool. When those things, especially the go-kart, when the go-kart comes around on that wall, and you're standing there and things shake, things move. It's very much a multi. What the heck is the word I'm looking for? They do it in the theaters and stuff with the chairs that move. This is a multi-dimensional show. There's lots to hear, there's lots to see, and there's lots to feel. So it's very cool that way. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh, the go-kart. I did notice that in the interview we start talking about the go-kart, and I don't really say what it is we're talking about. So for anybody who's listening to the podcast, we do talk about the go-kart, which is from the original show, or the show in Ottawa going back to the 1970s. So that go-kart's been around for a long time. Anyway, there's more about that in the interview. But just so that you know, when I say, what's this in front of us, I'm looking down at the go-kart because we're doing the interview inside the Wall of Death with the go-kart in front of us. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I say, I wanted to do this justice. I don't believe yet that I am, but I hope you'll enjoy this. I hope you'll enjoy the story, and I hope you'll appreciate how this came to me, how this comes through to me. I hope you'll see that there's just a whole bunch of history that came together in this one moment, if you will. So it's pretty special. I got a kick out of it. Anyway, I'm going to shut up and let you watch the rest of this. I want to thank you for being here. Hey, YouTube, podcasts, social media. We're on Instagram. Instagram and Threads now. I jumped into Threads, so we're on those. If you could subscribe to the YouTube channel, that's really our strength. And, leave us a comment if you remember the Wall of Death, if you've been to it lately, if you know these guys, whatever you want to share with me. I'd love to hear about the Wall of Death. I'm kind of trying to collect everything I can about the Wall of Death. So there you go. Enjoy the show, and I'll be back with Season 2, Episode 2 in a couple of weeks. Thanks. Okay, here we are at Born Free in California at the Wall of Death with the Ives brothers. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here with these gentlemen. This is just so cool to be standing inside this thing. I never thought I'd be here. The guys I'm with are Kyle and
Ives.
Cody Ives. Super guys. I got a ton of respect for these guys. Man, they have done so much in their young lives, and continue to do so much. And I mean, these guys just grabbed life by the horns and rode it, and they're still riding it, and it is very cool what they do. So we're going to get to know them a little bit. We're going to get to know a little bit more about the Wall of Death, or in some ways what I'm almost thinking is the Wall of Life. But anyway, we're going to talk about it some more. First, though, can we get to know you guys a little bit? Can you tell us a bit about yourselves, where you live, that kind of stuff?
So we're originally from Sarasota, Florida. Most people, if they've ever heard of Ringling Brothers Circus, its home base was Sarasota, Florida. So my dad started off in his early career, and he used to go to circus school, walk high wire, and learn all kinds of different circus traits. And when he turned 18, he started traveling with the circus. And then fast forward it to when we were kids, we started riding in one of the steel balls that he had in the backyard, and it kind of just took off from there. My dad and I rode together first, and then a few years later, my brother and I started riding together, and then we moved from South Florida to South Georgia, where we spent our last 20 years of our life living in South Georgia. So the humidity out here is kind of, we're used to this heat wave that we got going on out here. But we grew up our whole life riding motorcycles and just trying to figure out how we could turn it into a living. and racing got expensive. And we started doing with like the steel ball. He did freestyle motocross, got into the wall of death, wheelie the Harleys. So anything with 2 wheels, we just like to have fun on.
And if I read the story correctly, your dad was in the circus, a part of the circus somehow.
Yeah,
What did he do?
He was the lead man on the 7-man pyramid when the Great Walindas did the 7-man pyramid and they fell. They did a tribute walk years later to make a memorial for the family, and my dad got to be one of the lead men walking on the 7-man pyramid. He rode horses. He did the steel ball. He did a little bit of everything.
Holy smokes. That's cool. Yeah, I didn't know what he had done. And if I read the story correctly, he bought a steel ball and brought it home to, you guys were on a farm or something?
No, we were actually living in the...
Yeah, we were living in the city, kind of.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Florida. And he just set it up. We had like a little less than an acre of land, and he just set it up in the side yard. And we got home from school, and we seen it, and we're like, oh, we're going to ride our bicycles and that, you know? And
so they came home from work early one day, and we had the whole neighborhood in there. Me, my brother, my cousin, all of our friends, and we're just pedaling our little hearts out inside the ball. And then I turned 8 years old. My dad got me a dirt bike, and then from there he taught me how to ride in it with the dirt bike. And he got in there and rode with me. And then we put another guy in there, and then I trained for like a year before we went on the road with our first circus, and then we've been traveling ever since.
Very good. So you guys are a real family deal. I'm very impressed that you guys, at this age, still work together, travel together. You seem to get along pretty well.
It's tough. We're brothers for sure.
It's tough.
We bump heads more than we probably get along, but it's always in the good faith of the show and making sure that we keep people entertained and that it's going down the road.
That's great. And in the summer, you bring the kids with you.
Yeah.
Kids just came screaming in to see what's going on. No, a great operation. I love what you do. You know, there's so many people in this world who can find excuses not to do things, and you guys just seem to make things happen.
Yeah. We look for, a lot of people look for the reason of why not to, and we look for the reason, to do it. So, for sure. Absolutely.
Excellent. That's awesome. Very good. So the wall and how we connected, and it was kind of funny, and I think I probably told the story in the introduction here, but we'll visit it again. We were here 3 years ago in California, and Karen and I were standing up top waiting for the show to start, and Kyle comes around with a big wrench and a ratchet, and he says, "Excuse me, sir," and he moves me out of the way. And he starts tightening up bolts and says to me, "Can you believe I forgot to tighten the bolts up when I put this together yesterday?" And I don't know if that was just a gag that they do for the audience or if he was being serious, but he had the wrench and the ratchet and he was definitely tightening things up. So anyway,
I like to say that also in the show, like especially the first couple shows of the evening. I'm like, well, technically this isn't a show because we're just shaking it down, making sure we set it up right. You guys were just here, so we decided to do it with you guys. And then people's like, huh. Add a little spice to it,
Right on. Anyway, in that conversation, I mentioned to Kyle that I had seen this show in Ottawa about 52 years ago.
Yeah.
And Kyle's reaction was, "What do you mean you saw this 50 years ago?"
Yeah.
And that started a conversation, and he said, "My brother Cody is going to want to talk to you," and we talked afterwards, and we stayed connected, and these guys agreed to do a podcast with me once I got this thing rolling, so here we are.
Now we're here.
But the connection to Canada is it's obviously one of the big factors behind coming down here to talk to you. So this wall, you tell us, what are the parts that are tied to Canada here?
Well, so when we first started, we leased a wall that was from Canada, that was built from a man out of Toronto, and we used that wall to learn and to master our craft, if you will. And then when we got to the level of we needed our own, we built our own, and then we saved some of the history from the Ottawa wall, which is like these red boards here. There's some hooks up top that hold the safety cable, the cables that go around, and the middle bolts that hold the walls together. All come from that wall. So,
And I think you told me that you had one section that was from that original wall that you
possibly at that time, 30 years
fashioned
ago,
the others off of.
Yeah.
Made them.
It was probably the
Yeah.
door at that time. I think the door would have been the last remaining piece that
Oh,
we
okay.
still would use.
Okay.
But slowly, as we've been repairing, we.
But you
slowly
are correct. We
modified.
did. Yes, that's basically how we got the
Diameter.
yeah,
And, like, the blueprint of this
our
wall.
gauge, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
blueprint from this wall was we mocked it off of that wall.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, even the ramps, it's so cool for me, and that's what makes it exciting is I saw these when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I saw guys riding on this exact stuff.
Yeah.
That's a very cool feeling. This getting old thing is not all bad. There's some cool things that happen, but yeah, that's
Well, that's
neat.
good.
And you also mentioned to me, I thought it was cool about the wall that the Canadian wall did not have a panel 13.
Yeah.
And Cody, I think it was you who mentioned that
Yeah.
the panels are numbered so that you put them together in the same order.
I want to say that's the panel right here behind us.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be this panel.
And you guys do have a panel 13. You're not
Yeah.
afraid of that, right?
Yeah.
I still think it's actually panel 0.
Oh, is that right?
That one's 12, so that one's 0.
No, that says 13, but yeah, here's 0.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Right on. Right on.
just starts all over again.
Yeah. So the Canadian guys had a superstition about 13
Yeah.
and refused to label a panel 13.
Well, a lot of hotels, you don't even see a 13th floor.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure what it was, what really the jinx was about it, but we run a 13.
Yeah. There you go. Kind of cool, though. This is an interesting piece and story.
Yeah.
Tell us about this.
So this is actually the frame of this came from the Canadian wall as well when we inherited all of the equipment from that.
Right.
And then over the years we've gotten different things: wheels, tires, engine, and steering wheels and stuff like that. But the frame itself is kind of wall of death tweaked. You know, it's just perfect for what we use it for. And yeah, it's just a fun little tweak of the show that kind of separates the motorcycle scene from people just enjoying what we're doing here. And, you know, because you don't necessarily have to be a motorcycle enthusiast to enjoy the show, right?
Right.
So
this go-kart is, give or take, 55, 60 years old.
Yeah.
And this is the one
I
that
would
you
honestly
start the
say,
show
yeah,
on,
it's
right?
probably about 40 years old. But yeah, it's one of the first things we do. Yeah,
Okay.
every
Cool.
show.
And then there's a motorcycle involved in this too.
Yeah.
And that's been a part of almost every show we've ever done.
Yeah, my Honda.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Your Honda.
Yeah,
And what is it?
it's a CB 125.
Okay.
Yeah, all
And
reliable.
And that
all
came
faithful.
from
The Canadian wall as
That was
well.
the
Yeah.
first bike he learned how to ride on.
Yep.
And is that the one that
And the
you
wall.
collect the money on and
It
throw
is.
the T-shirts
It
away
is.
from?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. Yeah.
Very good. That led me to something else that I was going to ask you about. Yeah. So there's the Honda in this. What else have you got in the lineup for on the wall?
So I ride a 75 SX Harley Davidson.
Okay.
It's a little 250. And then
Kick and Wing
Kick and
has
Wing
a
rider.
81 CB 125.
Similar to Kyle's.
We have a 1953 Harley Hummer, but since Kick Wing's in here with his bike this weekend, we leave it out. Because sometimes when it's just Cody and I riding, I'll ride 2 different motorcycles.
Okay.
To kind of keep the 2 Harleys on the wall. And but we constantly always change our shows, and things are kind of always in rotation.
That's what I was going to ask you. You said 125 again. How much motorcycle does it really take to get on the wall and stay on the wall? Like 125 doesn't seem like a lot of power.
All kinds of stuff on the wall, from little Predator motor boonie bikes to BMX bikes, the electric bikes.
The smallest thing we've ever rode on the wall is a 110.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the biggest thing's a 975, the new Harley Davidson Nightster.
I saw the video with you guys with that thing on the wall.
Yeah.
But that had to be heavy.
Honestly, it wasn't that bad.
Is that right?
They're very well balanced motorcycles. All the weight is super low, and it's just the center of gravity is perfect. And
So how much speed do you have? Like
Roughly
first gear, second gear, what?
We're in third gear, so
Third gear?
we're probably going into like the low 20s,
Okay.
mid 20s.
when we're on those newer bikes, man, it's almost like just over idle speed. Really, it seems like, because those things idle like 20 miles per hour, you know. So, but we're doing like right at 30.
Okay.
Comfortably. Yeah.
Very good. What else do we want to talk about here? I will tell you that I was expecting this to be maybe a little more sophisticated, and I don't want to offend you guys at all with that.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, this is not rocket science.
Yeah,
This is
not at
pretty
all.
basic stuff, isn't
Yeah.
it? You know, the
early
floor-
Point and shoot, baby.
The early 1900s, this would have been really impressive to see them set this thing up, tear it down, and move it around.
It still is very
Yeah.
impressive to see it.
Yeah. No, it is. But you know, you look at, and I'm sure you know you can see on the video that the condition of the panels and stuff, they're not pristine. There's some wear and tear.
They definitely get used.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
when I climbed in here today and walked across the floor, and there were a couple spots on the floor that had a little give to them, and I thought, okay.
There's sometimes where we're actually avoiding areas of the wall because it's getting weak, you know, like we're like, hey, there's a hole over there, so let's just try to stay off that, you know.
And I imagine this is similar to, I've done some drag racing in my time, similar to something like drag racing. The first time you do it, everything seems to happen so fast and get past you, and you miss things, and you don't do things. Once you've made 20 laps in the car,
You get comfortable,
all of a sudden
settled in.
you're taking everything in. Everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Same thing here. Once you've been around it
Yeah.
50 times,
Yeah, you get super comfortable.
you can actually travel up
Yeah, 'cause every
path.
time we set it
And you
up
can
at
learn
every-
something too. You know,
Every
you're
different
paying
location,
attention.
it's like riding a new wall every time we go to, because we're setting it up in different elements. And some places are drier, some places are more humid, it shrinks, it swells. So it definitely is the wall of life, because it's breathing and growing.
I told people I'm going to start calling it the House of History.
Yeah.
Instead of the Wall of Death, it's the House of
That
History.
wouldn't
You
be
come watch
bad.
the show. I mean,
actually,
it moves around, it shakes around like a wooden roller coaster.
Oh, it does. Even way
It's the
back.
full experience for sure.
Yeah, it's always done that. I just, I don't know what I always chalk that up to, but when I got in here today, I went, oh, okay, now I get it. It actually does that.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, there's 24 pieces of everything, and it all stacks on the trailer one way, all comes off one way. And
Right.
we found over the years the fastest way we can set it up, the fastest way we can tear it down.
Most efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those panels
Try
have
not
to
to
be
touch
heavy.
everything twice. You know, that's the goal.
Yeah.
Grandpa always said, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Right. How many shows a year do you do?
We
On
shoot
an
for like
average.
30 events a year.
Is that
Well,
right?
yeah. 30, 35, sometimes 40.
30 works out pretty well.
Yeah, 30 is a comfortable number.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah.
Any, you talked about the show is always evolving. Any new stuff coming? I heard there might be some new motorcycles.
Yeah, so we're super excited. We've got some bikes. that we're building. And, you know, I think we have been so focused over the years of us creating our own image and our own written path or history, if you will, of the Wall of Death and being a part of it, that we left out a major part, and we're excited to add that back in, which happens to be some motorcycle history. And, you know, so we're going to have another piece that just kind of puts the puzzle together a little more. And we're excited to be bringing that along. We're making some upgrades to the wall, and just slowly, surely inching our way to, you know, some cool new ideas. And we've got some lights and things that's being talked about. And yeah, it's going to be cool. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
So, Canadian listeners, Canadians, where can we see you in Canada?
So as of now, the only show we do in Canada is it's in Toronto. It's the North America Motorcycle Super Show, and it is, I believe, always the first weekend of January. It's indoors, and it's just a really fun, clean environment. Just a great event to be a part of, and so that's normally the only show we do in Canada. But our phones ring pretty often.
We need to work on that. You know that, right?
Yeah.
The problem is we got this damn winter thing we have to deal with.
Yeah.
We'll
Well, your guys' buildings up there are big.
Yeah.
They're used to doing things indoors, so. Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
It's actually the only event that we've ever done with the inside with the wall, so that's a cool, unique experience, all within its own. You know, you would be sitting here, but there would be no center pole, there would be no tent, and it would just be industrial ceilings, you know, and it looks really cool. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, you know, I could keep you guys here for a couple more hours and just talk all about the history and everything.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that because you got to be ready for shows tomorrow, and you got
Yeah.
some work to do yet.
Yeah, we've got a couple more hours.
We're getting things wrapped up. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
But before we cut you loose, do we need to mention sponsors, websites, social media, anything?
If you guys get a chance, please check out our sponsors, RX2 Motorcycle Law.
Maxwell Oil, Peak Designs. Follow us on our social page, Ives Brothers, and find out where we're going, where we've been.
If you guys are interested in merchandise from the Ives Brothers,
Right.
the
Website
IvesBrothers.com.
IvesBrothers.com.
The IvesBrothers.com, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good.
Yeah.
And Harley Davidson, are you guys working with Harley Davidson these days? or
I mean,
on a
that's
show-by-show
always our
basis?
goal. You know, sometimes it's a little slower than often, you know, but we appreciate working with the company.
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I
Really
appreciate you.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, get
Yeah.
back to work.
All right, we will. Y'all
Appreciate
take
you
care.
guys.
Have you ever wondered what fueled your passion for motorcycles? It wasn't until recently that I hadn't really given it a lot of thought. But a few years ago, we came out to see Born Free in California, the motorcycle show. And the Ives brothers were here with the Wall of Death. And boy, oh boy, did it trigger some memories for me and make me think about where the passion comes from, where I've been, you know, the way life has evolved. So when I got here and looked at the Wall of Death and we went in and watched the show, I realized that it had been probably 52 years since I had seen the show. And the memories just came flooding back. It's a great show. It's amazing. These guys do a real good job with it. I used to watch this show as a kid in Ottawa, and when I say a kid, I was a teenager. I'm guessing I was around 13, 14 years old. And you know, I didn't know where life was going, what teenager does. But I used to go and watch these guys, and you know, the guys with the beards and their dirty jeans and their t-shirts, but it was life on the road. I mean, these guys traveled with this crazy wall of death, and you know, I took the wall of death a lot more seriously as a teenager than I take it now. Not to say that what they do isn't serious, but you know, it had more of an allure to it or whatever, I know that. But you know, I used to go and I would watch these guys, and it wasn't just my passion for mechanics and mechanical things and motorcycles that got ignited, but it was passion for a lifestyle, a sort of freedom, maybe a little bit rebellious. It was very cool what it did. And you know, the show has changed a bit. Obviously, riding on the wall is still pretty similar. But I remember in Ottawa, one thing they used to do is they had a platform out front, similar to what the guys have here. But on that platform, they had almost like a dyno setup. I don't know what you'd call it. It was rollers, but the front rollers and the back rollers were tied together. So when you put the motorcycle on it, the front wheel was spinning with the back wheel. It was really cool. And the one item I remember that was so neat is they had one of those old mechanical sirens. Sounded like one on a police car, and I've never looked into it, but maybe the police cars were these mechanical setup. And it had a long spindle mounted on the front of it, and it had handles, and the thing was painted red. And what these guys would do, these bikers, is they'd fire up this machine out front on the rollers, and they'd weave back and forth a bit, and they'd do the no hands, and they, you know, I can even remember them doing the Indian Larry thing and getting up and standing on the seat and, you know, on these rollers. But they would, to let everybody know the show was going to start, they would take the siren and one guy would hold it to the front wheel to spin it. And this thing would, you know, this great siren. And he'd hold it on the front wheel and he'd take it off and then he'd put it back on again. And man, they were just, they were, as I say, they were rebels, they were outlaws. It was fantastic. And then you'd go in and watch the show, and you know, they'd warn you to keep your hands back and all that kind of stuff, and then they'd get fired up and up onto the wall. And I remember, and you'll get to see it here later, but I remember they had a go-kart that they would run on the wall, and then out would come the motorcycles, and they would go around that wall, and I just thought it was the coolest show ever. They'd weave high and low. The wall is about 12 feet tall, so they'd weave up and down the wall, and then they'd get two of them out, and there'd be two of them on the wall at the same time, weaving up and down and doing all kinds of stuff. And you can hear the show just started. They've got the go-kart on the wall right now, and they've cranked the music up, and I'm going to try and make this work for the video, but it's fantastic. So anyway, the one thing they would warn you about is at the top of the wall, there's a safety cable all the way around. And they used to say that safety cable was to deflect the rider on motorcycle if they got too close to the top so they didn't injure anybody. And I always wondered about that, and I got to ask these guys someday how that would really work if you touched it. But anyway, so that was all plenty cool. The one trick that I loved watching them do it, and it never made any sense to me, and it still doesn't. It's kind of gravity defying or physics defying. They do lots of no-hand stuff and everything else, but when they turn on the seat and sit side saddle on the seat, no hands, facing the ground, I used to watch that and just be blown away how anybody could do that, and they stay on that seat and go around that wall. Man, the memories are unbelievable. Another thing that is different now, the Ives brothers do something very cool where they get you to hold out a $20 bill up at the top of the wall. And they tell you how to do it, to keep your hand back but hold the bill out itself. And I believe it's Cody, they probably both do it, but they ride around and they come up to the top of the wall and they grab the bill out of your hand and they ride down to the bottom, and somebody in the bottom of the drum throws a t-shirt to them, and they come back up the wall with the t-shirt, and they pick the same person out who just gave them the bill, and they throw you a t-shirt. It is spectacular. I can't believe it. And I can't believe that they can actually not remember, but going around like that, how they can pick out that same person and throw that t-shirt to them. It's fantastic. The difference there is what used to happen in Ottawa is at the end of the show, they would ask people for donations for injured and deceased wall riders, guys who were either injured or died on the wall. Now, I don't know how many people that is. I'm guessing it's actually not very many. And it was a good story, and people threw a lot of money down. Then they would collect all the money. Back in, I mean, we're talking early 70s here. Back then, people threw coins and everything. I always wondered, man, what if you slip on coins or something going around out there? Whatever. Anyway, I'm sure it pulled in a lot of money. I like the t-shirt idea better. I think a t-shirt's a better way to get support. Sounds like they're firing them up again. I apologize for the noise. We are here at Born Free, California. This place is off the charts. It is insane here. It is hot. It's going to 28 or 29 degrees. That's Celsius. For our American friends, 30 and 30 is 60, minus 6 is 54, plus 32, 86 Fahrenheit. So you're in that 86 Fahrenheit range. Anyway, fantastic show. I wanted to record this right here with all the noise and hoopla and everything else. We're going to get this all tucked away, and we're going upstairs for the next show, and I'm getting a t-shirt, baby.